So this is my Granberg chainsaw mill. The model number on it is, I think it's a G, here it is, a G, looks like 77.6. They call it an Alaskan Mark III. There is a ton of videos already out there on them. That's how I figured out how to buy it, and that's kind of how I learned how to use it. One thing that I haven't seen that, like I said, my dad's got a lot of experience with chainsaws. One of the things that he pointed out to me, on the end of the Granberg, you see this little protector right here? What it does, obviously, it keeps somebody from touching the chain or the end of the bar. But on the inside edge of it, right in here, you can see that there's a little bit of grease right there. If your chain is getting enough grease when you're running, or enough oil, what you'll see is a little line on that, on the inside, where the oil is gumming up with the sawdust. If you're cutting and you don't see that, I recommend stopping and, you know, pulling the chain out or chainsaw out, letting it run normally or vertically so that the oil can get back on the chain again. Or if you have the oiler mounts up here and it's just got a line that drips down onto the end of the bar where the chain is. But if you don't, trust me, the bar is going to get hot and it can warp the bar. Haven't had it happen, better again, knock on wood, and I don't want to see it happen. So just something that I noticed. On these, you can adjust the depth by loosening up this bolt, or there's 4 bolts here, raising it or lowering it, and that'll set your gauge. This is actually a board that we cut that I use as a work surface. This actually came from a piece of sweet gum. I don't recommend cutting sweet gum just because it's a fibrous wood, but it did actually a pretty decent job. This piece works well as a work surface on my workbench. I clean guns and stuff like that on the workbench, so I try to keep it as clean as possible. I just got a scrap piece of carpet on here, so hopefully that will give some folks some heads up on what's going on. What I'll do next is show how it gets mounted into or onto the saw itself. Okay, there's a little bit more room down here on the floor. You may not see the top of my head, but it's got a bad haircut anyways. So the first thing, I carry with me a 1/2 inch open end, because the adjustment bolts, or actually the bolts to lock in the bar into the sawmill itself, is 1/2 inch. So if you ever need to take it out, I just carry it in my pocket. So the first thing you can do is make sure that these little bars right here in the center are centered in your bar. The last thing you want to do is try to fire up your saw and find out that it's pinching the bar. So I make sure there's enough of a gap, not too much like that. There we go. We'll open it up a little bit more, and take the saw. So, all the way over the other end, make sure it clears that one. You want to do the same thing on this far end. You want to make sure that it doesn't pinch near that sprocket. If you pinch down near that sprocket, then your chain's obviously not going to turn very free. I'm looking to make sure I got good clearance, which I do. Go ahead and tighten these up by hand. I'm not going to make you suffer and watch me tighten all these, so I'll zip forward here in a second. Most people know how to tighten bolts. Okay, so I've got everything tightened up. Like I said before, you want to make sure that the chain moves freely. I leave about a 1/4 of an inch gap between these grippers on the end of the saw and the edge of the mill itself. You can put it in closer, but I don't really see why. Don't tighten it up too tight on these ends, or you want to tighten it up, but not so much where it's pinching down on that sprocket on the end. So that's pretty much it. Once you get it set up like that to adjust, and again I keep that 1/2 inch. Most of your chainsaw wrenches that you get will have the parts that you need. And the way Granberg built this is that it should be just the one wrench. The wrench that you use on your chainsaw is the same one that you'll use to adjust this. So you can already see as I loosen it, it's dropping down a little bit. So I'll loosen these bolts up. Maybe. There we go. That one was tight. And then once I get these loosened up, then I'll be able to do the depth adjustment, and it'll be ready to cut. I tell you, it makes a big difference having that ripping chain versus just your regular crosscut chain. So and you can adjust your height here. This rides on the guide for the first cut, and then your saw's cutting. The way that mine is set up, I only have a 20-inch bar on this. This chainsaw can go up to a 25-inch bar. They recommend that's the maximum. The width in between here, if I remember right, is about 14 inches. So most of the logs I'm cutting are pretty small anyway. So, but that's the setup. And then you saw to adjust the depth, and there's graduation marks on here, so you can see where you're at, and you just get it set up. Just make sure everything's level. That first cut is where everything happens. Because if that's wavy or unlevel, then you're gonna have all your boards are gonna come out that way. So we try to make it as uniform as you possibly can. And that's it.